What's happening? Thank you for checking out the Hospitality Strategy Lab. My name is Jason Littrell, and I'm here with Daniel Burstein from the How I Made It in Marketing podcast, celebrating over 150 episodes. Also, the head of content at Marketing Sherpa and Mech Labs, which I'm pretty curious about. But thank you for joining us, Daniel. Say hello.
Thanks for having me here, Jason. I appreciate you having me.
Did I get all that right?
Yeah, very good. Even the pronunciation of the name, which is very rare, so good for you.
It's Frankenstein.
Exactly. There you go.
Thank you for helping me with the Mel Brooks reference from Young Frankenstein. So you are a big get for me. You've done over 150 podcasts with with a lot of people that I really respect over several years, and I would love to get your take on where the consumer psychology is heading as far as independent bars and restaurants, and how people can get their messaging and storytelling out if they don't have a lot of resources. A lot of my clients are very independent. They wear many hats. So if you owned a bar and it was just you, a GM, and a staff, what would you do? How would you get the word out to fill up your restaurant?
Sure. Well, let's start with what is your value proposition, right? This is where everything begins. So before we start, let's just throw some ads up and start smacking customers with stuff and think we can get in front of them. What is a value proposition, right? And at Mech Labs, we define it. We have a patented methodology. It was set up by our founder, Flint McLaughlin, who's in the early days of the internet, one of the key guys that came up with conversion optimization, A/B testing at the turn of the century. But anyway, what is a value proposition? A value proposition is the answer to the question, if I am your ideal customer, why should I choose you instead of any other option, right? So let's start there. Before we just start smacking things in front of people, let's start there, right? And we can go through and unpack that, and that's a longer thing. But at a high level, how does that sit with you, Jason? Does that make sense? If I am your ideal customer, why should I choose you over any other option I can choose?
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw this in one of your podcasts as well, where you're talking about if you're marketing to everybody, you're marketing to nobody. So, like, how would you? I mean, it's really difficult because every independent bar owner, they're like, I'll take whoever I can get in here on a Tuesday night. But how would you narrow down the communication so you're doing this exact ICP or avatar or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah. So the example I like to use, you might have heard this before. I am a child of the 90s, and I don't know if you remember the Blind Melon video, No Rain. You remember that video? I don't know if you remember.
Yes, with the bumblebee costume.
That's exactly right. So just to tell everyone, if we've got some listeners that aren't Gen X on, okay, basically there's a girl in a bumblebee costume, right? And she's going around and dancing and doing her bumblebee dance, and it's black and white and sad, and nobody wants to see it, while the songs are going on. And then at some point, she turns the corner, and she's like this colored field, right? With all these bumblebees are dancing around, and she goes there and she's dancing with them, right? And she's loving it. And what happened? She found her tribe, right? And so if you're talking about you're an independent restaurant or bar, right? What is your tribe? Who wants to be there? Think about Cheers. Right? Who was at Cheers? That was a specific tribe. So it wasn't just some random person walked in. It's like, this is my place. And I think Howard Schultz of Starbucks, to use a big company as an example, he hit the nail on the head with us a long time ago, right? He said, it's the third place. That's what does Starbucks sell? Again, get into value proposition. Back then, what does Starbucks sell? They don't sell coffee. I mean, coffee is pretty cheap to get, right? They don't sell lattes, even some of the new drinks they came up with. They sold the third place, right? Place number one is home. Place number two is work, which for me and some other people is still home. But place number three, that third place for, Norm and Cliff, it was Cheers. For, Howard Schultz's group back then, it was Starbucks. And I don't know for sure, but if you get into like, why has Starbucks stumbled these days? Why have they had to pay so much to the guy from Chipotle who doesn't even want to work in Seattle? It's because they stumbled on that third place idea. And a lot of us, when you talk about independent bars and restaurants, any bars and restaurants, a lot of us did in COVID, right? Because we couldn't have that third place anymore. We're trying to figure it out again, right? Okay, so who is your ideal customer? It's not everyone. And I'll give you an example. One example I experienced recently. I live here in Jacksonville, Florida. There was a funky taco place I heard of, like alien taco and bar. And it was like, it's basically tacos and stuff, but it was like very alien themed and odd. So anyway, we get there, we walk in, we're going, we've never been there before. It's like a Monday night, and it was pretty packed for a Monday night. And if you know, Jason, Monday's usually not a killer night. So, and then we start noticing it's like, look, I'm not the coolest guy, but it's a kind of geeky crowd, right? Like, what's going on here? And then at some point, maybe you're one step ahead of me and you know what happens. The trivia guy comes on and it's Stranger Things trivia night, and the crowd goes wild, right? And so what did they do? They packed the house with that tribe. The B-girl people in Jacksonville, right? They said, where is my place with other B-girls? It was that Alien and Taco Bar. So the reason I say focus on that ideal customer, and I was working recently with an IT consulting company, which might seem very different. When we talked about this, we were looking in the Salesforce partner portal. There's 4,000 different options of partners in the Salesforce partner portal. And that's what I was getting to. Who is your ideal customer? Is it, this specific industry, this specific location, all these things? And he's like, well, I don't want to say that because I'm going to turn away business, right? But what's really going to happen is if you're just kind of that bland option that's for anyone, look, don't want to diss anyone, but Applebee's exist, right? If you're that bland option for everyone, like you don't really get anyone that strongly. But if you hit that ideal customer, that tribe, boom, you hit them right between they're talking to each other. They want to be there. That's the place to be. That's their third place. And now who is that? And we can get into that, but like that is, you are now a business owner, right? You're an entrepreneur. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. This is what comes with it. Who can you serve best? Who do you want to serve best? And that's, getting into the ideal customer.
So the third place is such an important distinction that a lot of people don't really think about. But I'm curious, what's your take on that being a tactical thing versus a strategic thing? Like, let's say if you're doing trivia on Tuesday nights and you're a whiskey bar that has 1,000 bottles behind the bar. Like, at what point are you departing from the core concept?
Yeah, I'm glad.
And alienating those guests.
I'm glad you asked that. That is spot on, right? If it's just some tactic to get people in the door, you're doing it wrong, right? The strategy is, we all want to open a restaurant, right? We all want to have our own place. Why did you open it to begin with? Yes, I want you to make money. I want you to pay rent, wait staff, your mortgage, all these things. But I hope you have some passion to serve some group and to do some things. So that's where getting into that ideal customer, we can also talk about what makes a strong value proposition, but that's why understanding that ideal customer is so helpful. When you're looking at that promotion, and I'm sure you're getting pitched a lot of these promotions, it's, okay, is this right for my ideal customer, right? So the Stranger Things trivia night might not be right, for the super hip whiskey bar folks, right? But the reason I like that example is because we walked in, it's funny, this place used to be like a French bistro that we used to go to. And then we go and now it was totally transformed. Tacos, you don't normally think about aliens, but it's all this extraterrestrial stuff, right? It fit perfectly with the theme. So that's a great question, Jason. The value proposition guides your strategy. Don't just do random tactics to bring people in. It might work in the short term, but what are you doing? You're killing your third place in the long term, and you're telling your ideal customers, you know what, this place isn't right for you anymore. Look at Cracker Barrel. Look, again, not to pick on them. This stuff is hard. I don't know, exactly.
They've been in the news a lot lately.
Yeah. They've been out there a lot lately. And so, the people that walked into Cracker Barrel, we would go to Cracker Barrel. It's a nice place to, I think everyone knows that. It's more maybe here in the Southeast, but, it's a nice place to stop off the highway. They have clean bathrooms, have this and that. So I would, go in and we're like kind of occasional customers, but we'd see all that stuff on the wall and we're like, ugh. And so that was their thing. We're going to transform and make this new modern. We're going to be whatever, the Applebee's of Southern cooking or whatever. And what did they do? That third place, boy, they lit a fire under their people who want to see, for some reason, a rusted scythe on the wall. And that's important when they eat. Again, that's not me, right? And you might say that's not you, but it's like, who are those people and what do they want? And try to serve them better than anyone else can.
So hearing you talk about this, it makes me think about, okay, so we've narrowed down our ideal customer profile, and you don't have to get it like crazy with it. You don't have to say like, we're looking for biochemical doctors from Harvard in their mid 50s with 3.2 kids and homeowners, et cetera. It's like kind of more psychographic stuff, right? Like as in like what do they like versus what are their stats, their government stats?
Well, here, can I say two big questions real quick that I think would help everyone? So again, if you're not, big businesses, they do this market research. They'll come up with fake names for these people. And like you said, they'll have their income level and education level and stuff. And you can get that deep. That's fine. But here would be two questions I would ask about these people. What do they move towards and what do they move away from? Right? And those are very human questions. That's what we want to figure out about ourselves as human beings, right? What do we move towards and what do we move away from? So like, what are the types of things that attract us, that get excited? And what are the types of things that turn us off, right? And to use an example from the grocery industry, so here in Jacksonville, we've got Publix. I think that's pretty well known. It's more of a Florida store. And we've got, Winn-Dixie. And it's funny, I worked at Winn-Dixie in high school. And Winn-Dixie and Publix people, they're different people, right? So a Winn-Dixie person walks into a Publix and they're like, this is too frou-frou and she, it's expensive. I'm not paying this type of stuff for groceries or whatever, right? And a Publix person walks into a Winn-Dixie and like, this is like low rent or whatever, right? So think about that. And I think when you look at where perhaps Cracker Barrel might have stumbled, or Starbucks, or, some of those, I'm talking about the big companies because we all know them. It could be because they didn't really understand what do their customers move toward, what do they move away from. Maybe they were doing kind of like you were saying, Justin, like, hey, this is an emerging demographic and we got to get in front of the, Gen Z demographic, and they're not going to like the rusted, junk on the wall or whatever, versus really understanding what are those drivers of their customers.
Yeah, it sounds like a really reactive model. Whereas if you've defined who the person is that you serve, then you're proactive about serving them, and then they will kind of present themselves. And I'm guessing marketing becomes a little bit easier because you've built this third place for a specific person. And like in a place like New York, there's whatever kind of weird kink you're into, there's 1,000 other people that are into that exact weird same thing. I have a follow-up question about the okay, so we've identified our person, we've built this space for them that serves them, that gives them the home that they're looking for, the third place that they're looking for. How do you treat people, or how do you nurture relationships that are different ages, like as in a new customer versus a regular customer versus somebody who's coming in for a specific occasion? How do you identify those different niches within your customer profile?
Yeah, well, for one, also, too, so when you're taking this approach, it's less focused on, let's say, that demographic ability, because there could be someone in their 20s who's has more similarities and differences from someone in their 50s or 60s because they're that same group. They're both super into whiskey tasting and know everything about it. Now, when you get into generations, some of the things that can change is like communication preferences or styles, sometimes their budget, the amount of free money they have to spend. And so that's where it really helps where the independent bars and restaurants have such an advantage over the big companies is they can bring some humanity to these relationships, right? And there's other things they can do too, right? But they can bring some humanities. You have this advantage that all these big companies don't have, like e-commerce companies don't have. Like I said, these big franchises don't have. These people, are coming in and they're talking to you every day. And everybody in your restaurant, at least let's say, what do they call? Not back front of house, right? Everyone
that's
at least
like
front
bartender, servers, yeah.
Yeah, everyone that's front of house, right? They are on your marketing team. They are on your business intelligence team, your customer intelligence team, and all these things. And you want to get them together. Don't just treat them as the person that slings the beer, the person that, throws nachos out there, right? Start there. Have regular, meetings or whatever you can do, email chains, whatever it is, even internal contests and stuff. And let's try to get them. Let's build out, who are these people? What do they like? Have conversations. This comes so naturally, right? Whether you're at a bar, when you're in a restaurant, you can just drop those conversations in. It's like, first of all, like, where'd you hear about us? That's a good basic one. But like, hey, if we have a promotion coming up with X or whatever, when you find out something there's should we email it to you? What do you like? Text, email? Like, what do you like to have those very natural conversations and get these things from people. That's what the big companies can't do, and you've got that big advantage over them. And then get you want, once you're clear on who that ideal customer is, hopefully your internal tribe, so to speak, is along those lines of wanting to serve the ideal customer as well. And you're kind of all having those ideas, because sometimes, and often, hopefully, if you're hiring right, also a lot of those internal people are in that ideal customer set too. And those are great brains you can pick of where do they go? How do they find out about things? How do they want to learn? How do they want to, have these communications? So, there's things big companies can do. One thing the small businesses will say to me, I've done webinars with SCORE before. By the way, I'm not affiliated with it, but great organization to help small businesses. It stands for,
I'm a mentor, or I was a mentor.
Perfect. Yeah, I do that too. Like great way to, if you're a small business out there, get help in all the like accounting and QuickBooks and all these things. I don't know. But, they often are so frustrated, right? Because they say, oh my gosh, the whatever, the Outback or the Applebee's, whatever the big company is, they've got this huge budget. I can't match it. I can't do these things they can. Of course, right? There you go.
I happen to have my badge right here.
There you go. There's your SCORE badge. Yeah. I mean, anyone listening, again, I'm not affiliated with them or anything. I think it's kind of a quasi-government nonprofit entity. I mean, they'll help you in so many. I can't teach you QuickBooks.
But it's a great resource.
It's
people think that just because it's free, it's worth less. It's so not true.
Not at all. A lot of volunteers, a lot of smart people volunteering their time. But, again, the big pushback I get, like, I can't compete with their budgets and their brand. And of course you can't, but you know what you can do, right? Like it says, there's a famous thing. It takes a lot of time to turn the Titanic around, right? So I like to say, I use Mech Labs AI to build this picture when I do one of the webinars. You got that giant ship, right? And there's some force. If you've ever seen, here in Jackson, we have a port. If you ever see a giant ship moving through the water, just the water displacement, that's a powerful thing. That is a powerful thing heading your way. But you got a jet ski, man. Go around on that. You could go circles around
Mm-hmm.
that. And one of the things that you have that they don't is natural humanity. So use it.
So just getting into, so Mech Labs, it creates like AI driven products, like custom for individuals.
Yeah, so if we get into Mech Labs, as I mentioned, our founder, Flint McLaughlin, he's been around since the turn of the century. It's a funny time. He was here for the first revolution where it was like online and e-commerce, and was one of the like little forefathers of conversion optimization, A/B testing. He's one of the early guys at this. So it's really interesting going through this now AI revolution with him because he's kind of been through it before, right, in a different way. And so what Mech Labs was known for is we've done all this experimentation into customers, right? Because the biggest thing, as I mentioned with the ideal customer, that we're going to be successful in businesses, being really curious about, we call them customers, they're just human beings, right? Being really curious about these other human beings. Who are they? How can we serve them? And so one of the ways we do that at Mech Labs is experimentation, A/B testing. You're building a customer theory for them, right? So from doing this, Flint built out these patented methodologies. The value proposition is what I'm talking about. We have different methodologies. So if you think of like Six Sigma or a manufacturer, right? I like to use the example right across the street from my house is the headquarters of Vistakon, the contact lens company. And, it's not like, on Wednesday, they're going to make good contacts because Fred is there. But on Thursday, Bill comes in and he's not as good as making contacts, right? No, they have a specific methodology. When we talk about marketing and some of the things we're talking about, a lot of times it's just the golden gut. It's like this person gets it, they don't, So this is why we have this standard methodology to go through and to ask some of these questions with business owners to help them build that value proposition and all these things. So fast forward to now, in the past with software, we tried to build some of these methodologies into software. Didn't really work as well because it just becomes a template. AI comes along and we started this, to Flint's credit, like 240 days before ChatGPT came out. We're already experimenting with AI. So now AI is able to take these methodologies and build these things. And then on top of it, what we've built is kind of this middle layer where at the base level, there's any LLM you want. There's OpenAI or Claude or Grok. You can build it on that. But then there's this layer where it's very easy, even from just taking things off your website, to build something customer facing, right? So for example, for a restaurant owner, it might be something simple, right? Maybe you just use it for lead generation or to get people in. People go to your restaurant website. Let's say it's the virtual maitre d' or whatever, and it's just kind of answering all your questions and letting you know how to have a nice time at the restaurant, right? But you can go a level deeper and either charge or make it free. It could be a virtual you, whoever your chef is, that could cook alongside with them, right? Like one thing, people go to a restaurant, they love the food, they wish they had to make it. There's a really smart restaurant in town here, Blue Bamboo, where the chef actually does classes, right? And he gets deeper with people. He's like, I'll show you how to make this stuff, right? What if there's an AI version, $5 a month, whatever, or part of your loyalty program or free? And, your virtual chef is making it with you. Or there's all these different things you can do. But again, that's where it gets into understanding that value proposition. We could talk about the elements of what make a forceful value proposition. So you can say, here's how I can serve this ideal customer in ways no one else can. Yes, it's through, the food and the bar and some of these things, that in-person experience, but is it through other ways digitally? Is it through other products? Is it through, we know there's someone in our AI guild who has a small restaurant and started selling these salad dressings they would make from some small, like Menorca or some small island. I don't even remember. It's very unique. But again, you're able to do these product extensions because you understand that core value proposition. You understand that customer and you're like, what are other ways I can serve them?
That's really fascinating. And I think it ties in with a couple of some of the major pain points that I'm just kind of fast forwarding in my mind, like about like what keeps bars and restaurant owners up at night. And that's like a lot of it is staffing, a lot of it's compliance, a lot of it's marketing, sales, training, and they're all kind of in the same orbit with each other. So like using something like Mech Labs is if you're like staring at an empty dining room and you're wondering why it's like that, oftentimes people are just curious. They're curious about this and they have no idea why. And how do you start to understand that is by asking questions. And if you don't have the skill, ability, or desire to do that kind of research, then why not employ AI to help you out with it and then convert some of that this new technology into actionable data that's non-invasive? Like you're just asking people questions. So is that something like Mech AI would be helpful with?
Yeah, real quick. So a lot of what we're talking about is like front facing, like putting we call it an ADS, a delivery system, like on your website, or, giving it like front facing to customers. But to your point, like, yes, there are companies you can use this internally at your company. I know there's a hotel we're working with. And so one of the things the hotel was doing was taking its P&L data and, different data it had, and working with, just internally, not sharing this publicly, of course, and working with Mech Labs AI, to your point, to find patterns, what's working, what's not, right? I mean, that's a great thing to do with your menu. What's working, what's not, what days is it selling, when is it not selling, what are we missing, what could we add? We've got these ingredients, we've got these skills, what can we do? So yes, that's a really good, I'm glad you brought that up, Jason. There's also many things you can do internally with it, right? It's a virtual consultant by your side all the time, 24/7.
One of the things that I include in my software systems that's based on high level, if you're familiar with high level,
sure, yeah, fun,
but it's just like basic surveys like the NPS and the Q12. The NPS, like on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely would you be to come back or tell a friend? And that information is extremely important because it's that one piece of data is extremely relevant because, as they found, like 9s and 10s means that they're actively promoting and being positive about your brand. 7s and 8s means that they're indifferent, they don't care. 1s through 6 means that they hate your guts and they're telling whoever will listen about it. So what do you think? How do you feel like the consumer psychology has changed in the last couple of years? As far as expectations, do you think people are willing to talk to AI in the future, or are they? Do you feel like hospitality still has to be this one-on-one individual conversation business?
Well, I think it's all where and how you use it. So I'm glad you're bringing that up, right? So there is when you are actually in the restaurant, so you have to decide in your restaurant what experience you're creating, right? And this gets to what your value proposition is, right? Now, there's a different experience that people wouldn't expect when they're on your website or your app or whatever it is, right? So I am not an expert in your industry. So this is seeing from so sometimes it helps someone from way back saying like, wait a minute, here's what I see because I'm not deeply engaged in it. So very broadly, we talk about value proposition. The elements of value proposition real quick are appeal, exclusivity, clarity, and credibility. And we can get into that, we cannot. But I think there's probably, if we step back and you're saying how our customers change, there's probably two very broad value propositions people are looking for, right? They either want something very quick and easy. It's a meal replacement. I just want to get some quick and easy food, right? And that's where I just use the app. I want to walk in. I want to grab something. I want to get DoorDash delivery. I want to get, whatever it is, just super quick and easy food. That's boom, right? Now there's another one too here where it's like, I want an experience, right? I can make food myself. I'm going out. I want an experience, right? And I think that's probably something that is, now we also talk about how our customers changing, probably with how the economy is going and inflation and some of these things. I think more and more people are like, if I'm going to spend that dollar, right, I want to make sure I have that experience. So when we talk about over here to that group that it's like, okay, I want the thing, I want it easy, I want it quick. I mean, this is areas where AI can help, either back of the house, either front of the house. Like, let's make it easy for people to get what they want. We did a case study with a company in Brazil. I don't remember their name, like the biggest food delivery company there. And one of the biggest things they did with AI was product recommendations, right? So even if it's having some basic things on your website, getting those product recommendations right and all that, right? So that's one customer serving. Now there's this other customer where it's like great experience. So maybe AI helps you there brainstorm these different ideas or these promotions like we talked about, or analyze, like if you ran the Stranger Things promotion one night, let's analyze how did that change things. You mentioned NPS, Net Promoter Score. How was our Net Promoter Score, whatever. But this is one thing where I will say, just as a customer experiencing it, I am worried how sometimes technology is coming into the restaurant business. And when we talk about the front of house, that in-person experience for the people who want that big experience, again, people grab and go, whatever they want to get, like technology is helpful there, right? And so I know that, as you mentioned, a lot of independent bars and restaurants are probably struggling with margins and they're struggling with hiring these things. And so anything that can make them more efficient front of house is good. But one example I like to use is those, you go and you pay and okay, you're done with your dinner and now they hand you, or you got the thing sitting on your table and now you pay yourself and you click here and you do this thing and stuff like that, right? And so again, if that value proposition you're setting up is come out and have this experience with us because it's going to be this experience that's worth paying your dollar on, you're watering down that experience by making them pay yourself, right? As Jerry Seinfeld used to say, great joke, he said, like, at the end, you get the story of the meal, right? It's like a book. Oh, wow, I had this meal, right? But there's that experience. And again, you're interacting with the waiter or waitress, you're paying, you're this, you're that. And so I'm not saying that you're going to like put this kiosk out on your table and your now business is going to die. But what you might start is losing it on the margins, right? So when we're optimizing, a lot of times we're optimizing on the margins. If you're doing your value proposition right, you got your most passionate customers. Yeah, some people are never coming back. They're not right. But on the margins, now it's like, okay, we're going to go out on a Thursday. We're going to go here or there. And maybe we don't even remember why, but it's just a nicer experience at this place. Let's go there. Mm-hmm. So I hope I'm not like undercutting any sponsors or anything you're selling here. But that's why technology is great if we use it correctly and properly. But that's why understanding our customer and our value proposition is so important, because we don't want to water down that value proposition with tech.
Yeah, no, and it goes back to ICP, or it goes back to the person that you're talking to. I mean, we can do all these things, like we can connect phone numbers with AI and have chat and conversations and stuff like that. And that's the thrust of what I do for my clients mostly, is connecting AI with inbound interest.
Perfect.
How are you seeing the decision process? Spending more at the grocery store, they're spending less at restaurants, and so it's becoming a lot more cutthroat. Like, it was already a very competitive business before. Now it's like ridiculous, where somebody is going to dine out once or twice, maybe a month now, versus whereas it used to be once a week. In New York, it's a little higher than that. But how do you feel people are making decisions aside from word of mouth? Like, where's the digital influence for how people are making decisions on where to eat, in your opinion, if you had to guess?
Sure. Well, there's two things. One is let's talk about, I know a lot, we're talking about new customers when you're saying decide where to eat, but let's talk about the repeat customers, right? And that's where I talk about how that customer experience is so important. And, if you don't know, basic marketing is, it's almost, it's always less expensive and better ROI from serving a customer you already have instead of getting a new customer. We get into like customer acquisition costs and all these things, but at a basic level, that's where some of the things I was talking about is making sure it's an experience you want to return to. And so when we think about, what we went through in the past 5 years with COVID and the shutdowns, and I'm sure it hit, the independent restaurants and bars more than anyone, right?
Most did survive. Yeah. It was bad.
Right. But even the ones that are around, what I've noticed, and just even a customer, is I call it the great crapification. And it has really been the great crapification of service. And now, like, I'll go to hotels that I used to go to, and I'm a newspaper reader, and I love to get the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, or this or that, right? And they've stopped doing that, right? And they first blame COVID, or now it's like, well, they only come and they make your bed every other week and stuff like that. Or, I talked about Starbucks. Starbucks got rid of the newspaper. Now they're a coffee shop. Why are you going to go and hang out at the coffee shop and all these things? Mm-hmm. Right. So one of them, as we talk about where customers changed, is I think there is this flight to quality. So yes, people are definitely looking at their spending closer. And so so let's go back to that value proposition question. If I am your ideal customer, why should I buy from you instead of any competitor? So we didn't get deep into it. We don't have to. Is what is your competition? So the problem is customers are looking at the grocery store or their own kitchen as your competition. And when they do, it is hard to answer that value proposition question, go to you, because it's often less expensive. But when you make that amazing experience, it's right for them. Again, if it's Stranger Things night at the Alien Taco Bar, or just going in and it feels right, whatever that is feels right for you, the Cheers environment, right? Now, the grocery store isn't as much, right? That's not quite your competition as much. It's more like, I want to go out, I want to have an experience, I need to eat as well. You're getting into different budgets, right? So that's one thing, the repeat customers. Now, when it comes to the new customers, right? So there are the classic ways that people find out about things, whether consciously or subconsciously, advertising and in different channels and stuff like this, and they see this. But obviously, something that has just exploded with social media and the internet is that word of mouth in different ways, right? And so that gets back to why should there be that word of mouth, whether it's digitally, social media, review sites, all these different things, or it's just even in person going on. It's like the WhatsApp group. Right? The WhatsApp group, that is marketing you're not even seeing. I forget who I interviewed. It was at a bike company, in New York, this really cool bike company, I think Priority Bicycles, right? And he was telling me something that clicked off in their head was he was in a WhatsApp group and someone recommended some like hot sauce or something. And he saw, and it was like an expensive hot sauce. And he saw there's like maybe 5 people in his WhatsApp group and 4 people bought it, including him. And then he stepped back and he thought, wait a minute, that was really just marketing. You know what I mean? And it was like marketing with an incredibly high conversion rate at no cost to this company. Like, we all suspended disbelief, just went to this website and bought it. And so that's where we talk about repeat customers, right? That's that you're getting that one level, I'm coming back. But what's that next level? I want to talk about you, right? And that's where, again, that in-person customer experience is so valuable. Whether it's you've got some amazing setup there where people want to Instagram and share it, or it's, you came back a second and third time, people remember you. And I remember this one Chinese restaurant we go here with this real chef. he'd remember you. In that third or fourth time, he brought out like the elephant ear ice cream. He's like, which we would never order ourselves. You never try, take a taste with me or whatever, right? So what happened? You think we didn't tell 10 people that? Oh my gosh, we just tried elephant ear ice cream. No, it's not really elephant ears. Yeah, the chef was out there with us. We were trying it, right? That was an experience. That was something that's worthwhile.
So these are those NPS 9s and 10s, right?
100%.
If you're saying like if you're having your pre-shift meeting being like, hey guys, this is the level that we're on. This is the level that we want to be at. We want to deliver 9s and 10s, and anything else I want to know why. And you don't know, you're never going to know until you ask. And also, how many elephant ears does it take to make ice cream? And who's advocating for the elephants here? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that was scary. I think it's like a plant or something. Because and that's the nice thing of him talking to you. Because if we saw it on the menu, elephant ear ice cream, like, we're going to be buying that, right? But he's sitting there and talking to you. Yes, the NPS, the Net Promoter Score. That's why you're exactly right. That's why it's so promotional. And that's why the ideal customer is so important too. Because if it's not the ideal customer, again, they're probably not going to have the 9 and 10, and they're not going to be excited. And that's fine, because it's not right for them. And maybe we're close, and location's so important, and they just want to come in and stuff. But those right people, right? It's more than repeat customers. Like, that is a really important marketing force that you can leverage. Let me tell you, no one is sharing on social media, oh, I went to this restaurant, it's so great. They gave me this like handheld device, and I was clicking through and figuring out how to leave a tip, and and it forced this 25% tip, and blah, blah. Oh, you should come here. It's so great. No, it's that humanity. It's people. And instill that culture in your team. Maybe there's a $50 gift card for whoever served the customer best that week or whatever. Like, hey, where the waitress is, the manager's not just randomly going around, how was your time? But, Katie, the waitress, remembers, hey, Bob's been here 3 times and he really likes the, smothered French fries or whatever,
So staffing and filling up positions in restaurants is among the number one pain point right now for people. It's literally keeping bar and restaurant owners up at night because they just don't have enough people. And the number one reason that people cite when they say that they haven't, that the reason why they wanted to quit is because of poor onboarding and bad training. If you owned a restaurant, how would you coach your frontline team, your bartenders, servers, barbacks even, on how to communicate on behalf of the restaurant?
Well, first of all, it's about bringing the right people in that want to communicate the right thing, right? So, like attracts like. And so if you've got when we got the ideal customer, if you've got some of those people who are like the ideal customer, hopefully you're recruiting some through them, or you're getting the word out in that way, right? Because then what are you doing? You're bringing in the people that are the right kind of people. So to them, then it's not just, okay, I make good tips and this and that. It's, oh my gosh, I work at an alien taco bar and I love aliens. I'm nerdy. Like it's part of their identity. It's part of their life. It's more than just a job, right? And I'm sure we've all probably had some of that sometimes, or not been in the right fit sometimes. So that's first, getting that in. But then second, also, it's showing them how they are more than just bringing food over, right? They are part of the product, right? And not only will their revenue go up, right? Their tips, of course, if they do this better, but everything's going to work better for the whole restaurant. And so kind of showing them from someone doesn't know about us, so they're coming into all these different things, showing them how they're part of the customer journey and treating them as a partner. And I would say that's really important too, because for sure, this is a career for some people, for sure. And that is great. And those people are going to be invested. Other people too, this is a waypoint, right? They're doing a certain thing. They're in college. They've got a startup. They're doing whatever. So also finding out what are they doing and what's going on there and how to tap into that, right? So example in my career, I never worked in the restaurant industry, but in college, I had a job doing telemarketing for timeshares, getting people to show up for the appointments, not actually selling the timeshares.
Sounds brutal.
Right. And so one reason I got it was because I grew up in Daytona Beach, Florida. It's a very touristy town. A lot of people are in the independent restaurant and bar business, but there aren't a lot of well-paying jobs. And that was, the best paying job. But I knew I wanted to go into this industry. I was an advertising major, and boy, nothing is better to be in this industry than to actually have all these direct conversations with people. And I learned this really important and vital lesson at a young age in college, which is the same thing I'm talking about now. It's understanding that this product isn't for everyone, right? And so what happened, the way telemarketing would work, and then we can get into like waiters and waitresses, but the way telemarketing would work is back then, I'm sure it's pretty similar, is there's an auto dialer. And so it's just an endless feed of numbers it's going to call, right? And this was before can spam and some of this stuff. So this was all, totally legal. I just want to mention that too. And so they have a spiel where you're supposed to tell them it feels like they won something or this or that. And so they're all excited to come down here. And so, but the thing is, I didn't get paid on, okay, they booked an appointment. I only got paid if they showed. And what would happen is, they would call on Tuesday and they'd agree. And by Thursday, then their husband or wife would be like, well, wait a minute, we really won something? Why would we win this trip? And they didn't show up.
Again. Yeah.
Right. And so I would just be straight with them. I'm like, look, here's what we do. If you come to this 90-minute presentation, you'll get free hotels in Daytona Beach, Florida, and it's a nice place to come. That's right for some people. Some people, they're like, that's not worth my time. I don't want to do it. Some people are like, 90 minutes, I get a free hotel. It's great. Like, which are you? And they're like, that's not for me. Goodbye. Next person. Right. And for the people that is right for them, what's going on? Like, we're building together that value proposition for them. I'm not making a claim and trying to sell them on it. Right? They're buying in themselves. They're making their own conclusions. And they're like, okay, this is what you offer. This is a fit for me. Now, when we talk about getting to waiters and waitresses and all that staff, it's understanding they've got, again, what do they move towards? They're all individual people. What do they move towards? What do they move away from? Hopefully they're in your ideal customer set, or at least enjoy that. If you understand they have a deeper motivation to get into marketing or to be a doctor, all of these things, how does this job connect to it and really matter to that? I mean, for example, marketing's obvious. If they want to be a doctor, one of the hard things about being a doctor is it's the customer service aspect. Like, they don't know that until later. Like, I've taught, friends who have doctors, they don't know that till later. It's not just the science. It's not just the, figuring out, what's wrong with the patient. It's that customer service aspect, and talking to them through that and seeing that you get a higher level motivation out of people and they're more deeply engaged, not for a bad reason, because now this job is serving them better. And then they're going to serve the greater whole better. It gets motivation, ideal customer. It's all about value proposition. And we're not just talking about customers. Even for your work, what is a value proposition for your team, for your employees, for your workers?
All right, let's talk about some external stuff. So, like, let's say that you own a bar or restaurant, you have a small leadership team, and then your frontline staff. Is there any one particular strategy or tactic that you would employ as something that has to be done no matter what? Like, I'm talking about, like, is it making a blog? Is it doing Instagram? Is it doing testimonials, reviews, reputation management? Like, what's the one thing that you would focus on if you could only do one thing?
I mean, if I could only do one thing, again, it would be understanding the customer, right? I would spend as much time as I can to understand the customer, what matters to them. And what's going to happen is different things are going to matter to different customers, right? Like, so again, if it's that certain group set, like trivia night is going to matter. So boy, I'm going to get into the Reddit forums that talk about Stranger Things in my town, all that. Boom, I'm all about that, right?
Okay, cool.
Right. Or if it's this other group, I'm super interested. Like, they're the big reader group, or they like cooking themselves. They're real foodies. They want to know about the provenance of the food. I would have a different blog post every week about, here's where we get our chicken, and let's take pictures of the chicken and take a video there and see its lifestyle. And it's that famous Portlandia skit, right? Where they're like, wait a minute, we're not sure we want to visit this chicken, right? Now, if you do that to, the down-home guys who want to kick back a beer and just have a hamburger, it's going to fall flat. So I wouldn't say do a blog on the provenance of your food for those people. But if it's the Portlandia group or that foodie group, my gosh, I would focus on that blog, and I would, to every ingredient would have maybe there's little cards for each ingredient, it would be so focused on that. So I know I'd love to give that one tip of what would it be, but the biggest thing it would be is, man, pour everything I could into learning about the customer, direct conversations, surveys, go places they go. Are they at the farmer's market? Are they at the truck rally? Are they, where they go online, where they congregate, rub shoulders with them, be around them. I'll tell you real quick, one of the things that was most valuable to me in my job, we would go to, we used to run the media center at IRCE, which is a big internet retailer event. And when I would go there, I would always make sure to ride the bus. There's a huge event in McCormick Place in Chicago. And so there would be event buses that go from the hotel, one of the event hotels, to the actual convention center. And sometimes what I got more than anything was just being on that bus. I'm next to this person, I'm next to that person. Hey, what are your challenges in marketing? Hey, do you read Marketing Sherpa? Hey, what do you think about it? It sucks for that reason. Boy, that's good to know, So it's like, again, it's not just I've got product A, how can I shove it down someone's throat and make money? It's I've got these customers. I'm going to serve them better than anyone else. Let me be around them and let me learn about them. And I'm going to serve them with, obviously, my food and drinks. I'm going to serve them with my marketing too. That's going to be part of it. They'll want to read, the right people will want to read that blog post. They'll want to know that the chicken has a treadmill, right? That's serving them. They're excited. They're going to share that with their friends. Like, oh, this is so cool. This chicken was on a treadmill for 3 hours and I ate it.
It's so interesting that you bring that up because, like, this is known in other circles as a piece of pinnacle content. Like, as in, like, once a week you talk about this one thing, and then everything else that week is a derivative of that. Like, so it's like if you write a blog post and it's like then it becomes you talk about the blog post as a podcast, and then you put that on YouTube, and then you turn that into shorts for Instagram. I'm just thinking that like I had an idea, like I'm going to organize the perfect hour. Because one thing I recommend to my clients is that they time block. Be like, hey, listen, like you're sacrificing the important for the urgent, and if that's the case, then if you're always putting things aside that are important because the toilet's clogged, then the important things aren't going to get done. And so like spend an hour a week and put it in your calendar every week to do X, Y, Z, whether it's sales, marketing, operations, training, hiring, firing, whatever it is. But leveraging that 60 minutes of, if you only have 60 minutes of marketing, then like, here's how to make it count.
Sorry, go ahead. No, yeah, I love what you said about the important and the urgent. Can I give a content example of that?
Please.
Because when we're talking about content here, so you're talking about like Covey. I love Covey. I'm a big Covey fan, right? And so he's got his different quadrants. Stephen Covey, yeah. And there's important and urgent, important and not urgent. And so we also, like, that is also how your customers live. And we structure our content around that, right? So for example, the urgent, that's why we have how-to articles, right? So Marketing Sherpa, we publish a how-to article. You need to know how to do whatever, right? That's urgent for you. That's a problem right now. The article says it. Not only that, we have a Mech Labs AI workflow with it that'll do it with you. Boom. I've got that problem. I'm going right now. Boom. Now, as you mentioned, we have the How I Made It in Marketing podcast. That's not for urgent problems. You're not going to sit there and listen to an hour plus because you've got an urgent problem, right? That's for the important, right? How do I set up my campaigns? How do I set up my career? So I don't want to overlook that gem that Jason just told all of you. It's not just, if you're doing something in your life, if you're structuring your life that way, customers probably are too. So if you're thinking of putting out a content plan, also think about those two buckets, the urgent and the important.
This is also known as the Eisenhower matrix. This is literally how President Eisenhower made like world decisions. Like,
that's so cool. I never heard that.
Is this important and urgent? Is this urgent and important? Is it not urgent but important? Like, and then like that was how he prioritized decisions, and how he ran the country. And then oftentimes, if it was not important, not urgent, it was either discarded. If it was not important but urgent, then it would be delegated. And that's how we ran the business. I remember, I think I put a Trello board together that has a template for this. I'll put this in the show notes.
Yeah, and if there are people who haven't read that book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, so you understand what these quadrants are. I mean, the reason I read it, we had a book club here, and that's where I ultimately got into it. But I would hit 3 or 4 or 5 people who were like so good, and I'd talk to them like, "What?" And it's like, "It's this book. It's this book." It would come up again and again. So,
all right, that's all the time we have. Daniel, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show. If you're not hip to this, then check out the How I Made It in Marketing podcast. Check out the How I Made It in Marketing podcast. Thank you so much for coming on. I'll put all the links in the show notes. And is there anything else you want to share before we go?
That's it. Okay, the last thing I would share is this, right? So again, you're going out, you're trying to make money, you're trying to keep the doors open, you're trying to do all these things. That's important, it's essential, it's all that. Don't overlook that fun component, right? Because that is so important in your industry. It's important in everything. We're human beings too. We're not just accountants or whatever it is. But boy, in your industry, customers can sense what's going on with a company. They can sense when the marketing is desperate. They can sense when the people are not happy. This is difficult. Do it well, but try to find that joy in it, because that joy it'll bubble through and it'll matter. It'll matter to people.
Sage advice. All right. Thank you so much, Daniel. And I will see you next time.
Thanks, Jason.
All right, that's it.